Bible goes on to say, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came up to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? They weren't talking about anything else. Jesus just sitting over there, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, and they're talking amongst each other, kind of whispering, and finally they come up and they said, when's this going to happen? And what will be the sign of your coming? The coming of the Lord and the end of the age. And what's the first thing Jesus said? Well, let me tell you. No, he didn't say that. The first words out of his mouth to those questions, that multi-part question, he says, watch out that no one deceives you. He said, the most important thing I can tell you right now is do not be deceived. For many will come in my name. There are going to be people saying they're followers of mine. And they'll claim that I'm the Messiah. And they will deceive many. Now, there was a double meaning in what Jesus was saying here, because he was also saying there's going to be people that are going to say, they're going to come in my name saying that they are the Messiah. But there's also going to be people coming that say they're followers of mine and that I'm the Messiah, and they're going to deceive many. And that's what we're seeing in churches, local congregations all around the world right now. Why is the world in the state that it's in right now? Because so many people have infiltrated from the enemy's camp, and they've pushed themselves up to the heads of seminaries. They're in leadership. They bought their way up to the top, just like, the members of the Sanhedrin had bought their position, like Caiaphas and Annas and those people. Annas had bought their positions in, with the Roman government to be the heads of the Sanhedrin in the temple there in Jerusalem. We got the same thing in the church today. And we got people calling themselves Christians, saying that Jesus is the Messiah, but they're leading many people astray. And he says, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you're not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. And if you hadn't go back and go on BitChute. I've got all these videos up on BitChute. You can watch it there. But I've got, Jesus' birth pains have already actually begun. There's something like that on the title. There's a white horse on there. But we'll I'll put a picture of that up here and you can see it. You need to go back and watch that. But that's just the beginning of birth pains. And he says, then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you'll be hated by all nations because of me. Now, as I share in that other video, what Jesus has done here in verses 5, 6, 7, those are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. They follow right in the same order as Revelation chapter 6 and the first four seals. We get to verse 9 here. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you'll be hated by all nations because of me. That's the fifth seal. Now, a lot of people, they argue, and then, we'll get into that in a second. Let's jump back over right now. I want to go back over. We've started here. Jesus says at that time, many will turn away from the faith. What does that sound like? Clark, what does many turning away from the faith sound like?
Just losing their faith.
This is the apostasy.
Yeah, apostasy.
The great apostasy. At that time, when people start dying and having to die for their faith, a lot of people are going to turn away from the faith. And will betray and hate each other. There's going to be people in your local congregations that are cowards. And when they got to choose between Jesus and life, they're going to try to hang on to their life. Because the Bible says, Jesus said, whoever tries to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. But there's going to be a lot of people when persecution breaks out against God's people, the Christians. that the love of many is going to grow cold. A lot of these cats are going to be turning each other in. They're going to hate one another. And the reason the love of many is going to grow cold, because a lot of people are going to know, man, I don't know who I can trust anymore. You know, there were a lot of people afraid of Paul when Paul had first converted to Christianity because he killed so many Christians. They weren't ready to just accept the guy. And this is understandable, but he says they'll betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. There's more of that deception. He said, because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. He said, so, having said all that, when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation spoken of through the prophet Daniel, well, where's the holy place? The holy place is in the temple. And Jesus said, when you see standing in the temple, in the holy place, in the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant is at, which is the throne of God, he said, Daniel the prophet had already told you guys that there's going to be an abomination that causes desolation. He said, let the reader understand, and let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. Now, I'm going to stop right there. And Jesus has already said all that stuff. He talked about the beginning of birth pains. He talked about the first, we just saw the first 5 seals of Revelation chapter 6 right there. He had already talked about that way before John ever wrote the book of Revelation.